Okay, so now we're looking at Pinot Noir. Pinot Noir is a black grape variety that prefers a cool to moderate climate. It grows particularly well in France, the wines of Burgundy in particular. It grows well in California, it grows well in New Zealand, it grows well in Chile. It grows well in coastal Australia and coastal South Africa as well. And I always forget about Alsace in France and, of course, Germany in Europe, of course, as well. Pinot Noir is a fairly thin-skinned variety, which means it produces wines that are quite light in tannins. It doesn't have a huge amount of tannin in its skins, and it's also quite pale in colour. Now, the one that I have in my glass here and the one on the recommended samples list is actually a New Zealand Pinot Noir from central Otago. You could go out and get yourself a Burgundy if you like. That would be a good example to try too. You could even German or Pinot Noir from anywhere, but I thought it would be interesting for us to look at the New Zealand version. So that's what I've got here, and it's a slightly deeper colour than you might expect from the European version. It is, however, ruby, so we can say that this is a medium deep because I can still just about see through it. Think about Cabernet Sauvignon, for example. If you've watched the Cabernet Sauvignon video, you'll see that that's much deeper in colour, but this fits into the medium category. Okay, medium intensity on the nose because it's not until there that I'm really picking up the aromas. And the aroma characteristics are cherry, black, plum, oh my gosh, plum, a bit of blackberry, but mainly sort of cherry. And again, this is typical with perhaps New Zealand Pinot Noir over Burgundy Pinot Noir, is we get these slightly darker fruit characteristics. There's also a little bit of oak in here as well. Pinot Noir doesn't quite have the affinity for oak that maybe Cabernet Sauvignon or Syrah do, so it's a little bit lighter on that, on the oak, but there's definitely oak there. And I tend to pick up oak in Pinot Noir as sweet spice notes, cinnamon, nutmeg, and in particular clove as well. So we've got some secondary notes. I think this is a 2020 vintage, so it's not that old, so we shouldn't be getting any tertiary characters, but there is a trace of fig here as well, which I think you could use. Trace of mushroom as well. There's definitely some sort of truffly mushroom notes as well, which again is typical of Pinot Noir as it starts to take on that little bit of age. Right, let's look at the palate. Okay, so this wine is dry. Medium level of acidity, low tannins. They are there, but they are low. The alcohol, now, I think this is about medium, but it's right on the upper end of medium. I think we're talking about 13.5% alcohol. Medium bodied, it doesn't have quite the weight of the Cabernet Sauvignon that you'll try if you haven't already tried it. Flavour intensity is medium. Flavour characteristics, cherry, massively cherry. Both cooked cherries and fresh cherries as well. Touch of blackberry in there. All those sweet spices again that we talked about on the nose. Fresher on the palate, less of the dried fruit and the mushroom notes. And that's typical actually. You will probably notice as you start tasting and using the systematic approach to tasting more regularly that wines do have a more developed aroma than they do palate. So that's interesting. Wines will taste fresher on the palate than they smell on the nose. And I would say medium finish. And that takes us into a good quality wine. It's lacking some concentration. It's lacking a little complexity, lacking a little power. It's not as bold as I might expect from a very good or an outstanding wine. So we'll put this into the good category, and that does fit with the price of this wine. So the one that I have here, this is a Tesco Finest Central Otago Pinot Noir, which is a really good example, but it just costs £13, which really does put us into that good category rather than the very good or outstanding. But it's a really pleasant drink. I might actually chill that a little bit because it's so light in tannins and the fruit is so sort of fresh and ripe. I think that could really benefit from just chilling ever so slightly. That would be really nice to taste.